my talk. Here we go. How he said he living life as a gringo, where you question where you fit in every time you mingle. They say you do this with not enough that. My rapping is really bad. This life as a gringo.
Yes, hello and welcome to another episode of Life as a Gringo. I am Dramos, of course, and it is Thursday, so it means it's time for our Thursday Trends episode. And joining me today on the show, a friend of the show, he's been on here a few times at this point, friend in real life, also my guy, an amazing songwriter, producer, artiste, Laurito. How you feeling, my bro?
Dramos, what's good, bro? Thank you for having me again, man. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. I'm excited to get your take on a few different things that are going on in the world right now. So we'll kind of go all over the kind of the spectrum on today's show. So when it comes to like the nonsense and some of the more negative things, let's talk about the Grammys a little bit. And maybe it's negative from my perception. I'd be curious to hear your take on some of the winners and losers here. So we'll talk about that. On a more serious note, we'll talk about Biden's State of the Union address. It was a shit show. It felt like an episode of Love and Hip Hop more than Congress people. But we'll talk about it. We'll talk about this Chinese spy balloon a little bit as well. And then, man, on some positive stuff, we have some representation coming on the American quarter, the U.S. quarter, a first happening, and also SNL, man, and it just is like kind of showing, not necessarily what they did, but their recent host, Predro Pascal, used that platform to speak about some really amazing things, and I think it's just an incredible time right now to be a Latino in general. So we'll talk about that in our Mi Gente segment, but first, let's just get into the nonsense in a segment we call For the People in the Back.
Say it louder for the people in the back. Say it louder for the people in the back.
All right, man. So let's first and foremost start in your world, and very much my world as well. Let's talk about music. Let's talk about the Grammys. I believe there was a big snub at the end of the night, but let's first start on a positive note. Bad Bunny opening up the Grammys. Your thoughts, your reactions.
Puerto Rico! No, that honestly, that was probably the one part of the Grammys that I fully watched, and everything else was kind of, I was just coasting and going on and stuff. But like, I didn't expect Bad Bunny to open up the Grammys. And I mean, like, it was amazing. I was like, he brought the Caribbean, he brought Puerto Rico, he brought the Dominican Republic, which has never been done before. He brought the merengue to the Grammy stage, to the whole world, man. I mean, Bad Bunny always put on for Latinos. He always put on for different cultures, different styles, different genres, and different people within the community. So like, I'm just really proud to be Boricua, really proud to be Latino, Hispanic, and yeah, man, he kicked it off. I was just mad that motherfuckers weren't dancing.
I know.
Like, so snobby. It was like, but that's like a New York thing, bro. It's like, especially like merengue and all that stuff. It's like, bro, once you hear merengue or salsa, whatever, you're obligated to stand up. And if you don't, PT is going to get you up. He's going to get you up and have you dancing and rocking and shit. So, but I was just really proud of Bad Bunny, and I was really proud of everybody involved in that whole thing. So it was beautiful, man.
Yeah, it was amazing. And he had like those like people dressed up in like these big head outfits, and they all represented like really amazing kind of pillars of the Latin community historically. And yeah, he gave zero fucks, which I just absolutely loved. It was so Latino. It was not watered down whatsoever. I also love the memes going around where the captions were saying singing non-English, speaking non-English, which is now I think a Spotify playlist that has him and Taylor Swift together.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't get that, man. That was so weird.
But that, I mean, to me, that just once again like shows you, I think, how far we have to come still, where they felt the need to like put that on there. I mean, because I did see some comments on like social media, on some of the radio station pages that I follow, where they would post like about it, and you would see a Karen in the comment like, I didn't understand a word he was saying. It's like, sit the fuck down. It's okay. Just like catch the vibe. It's all right. I don't give a fuck about the country artists that are performing on there either, but I don't argue against their right to have a platform to do their thing on.
Exactly. And it's like, yo, first of all, Bad Bunny was like a global artist now. Like, everybody knows who Bad Bunny is. So if you don't know who Bad Bunny is at this point, then you just suck. You just, you just suck. And and also one thing that I noticed was like, they put like the non-English subtitles things.
Yeah.
The Grammys knew that he was gonna open the fucking show.
Right.
The least they could do as they're rehearsing is get an interpreter in that motherfucker and just like, what he's gonna sing.
Yeah.
Just write the lyrics out in English or whatever, or in Spanish and translate them. You had plenty of time to do that. They didn't take that opportunity, so that was their fault. But shouts out to Bad Bunny and everybody for like representing the culture with no fucks given and just like unsolicited. Is beautiful.
Absolutely. And those also one thing I found funny. He cursed in Spanish, and they knew to bleep it out, but they bleeped it at the wrong time, so the Spanish curse slipped through. So I thought that was just amazing. Yeah, fuck it. I love that he didn't give any fucks at all on that. But the one thing that I think was a snub, and he did win a Grammy for Latin urban album, which is a stupid fucking title as well. Anyway, urban Latin music or whatever. They do that in hip hop as well with like record labels where it's like their urban division, right? Instead of it just being music or whatever the fuck it is. But the thing a lot of people are also saying was that he got snubbed for album of the year, as he was the first English album ever nominated. He lost to Harry Styles. So I'm curious your take on that. Do you believe it was a snub? Beyonce also lost in that category as well. She's another one people think got snubbed.
Yeah, I mean, like, I never looked too deep into like that kind of stuff. He was just based off of the fact that, like I said, like Bad Bunny was a global artist. He literally took over the charts all 2022. Like since Verano Sin Ti came out, he had control of everything. So I felt like one, it would have made history for sure. But it's also like just based off of numbers, based off of the overall like who he is and how people reacted to him and how people were receiving him all over the world.
Right.
And yes, I listened to Harry Styles' album and I listened to Beyonce's album. That was, first of all, I don't think that was Harry Styles' best album. I think his first album was better than this one. This is like probably second best album. And then for Beyonce, I think with that, I mean, like, don't be greedy. Just like, okay, we get it. You've won the most Grammys ever in history. Right. Sure, you could have won the album of the year, but it's like there's also like this thing where not a lot of people are familiar with, like, especially like the general culture of like music, especially the Grammys, where it's kind of like before in the past been whitewashed. Yeah. And I think that people aren't necessarily familiar with like the house electronic music a fad that was going on, especially when it started happening with like Drake's album and then Beyonce and like all that stuff. So yeah, maybe there's like an unfamiliarity with that kind of music, and people were just more drawn to the commercial rock, poppy kind of like stuff that Harry Styles brought. But again, that's like politics and shit. That's why I don't look too deep into it. As far as deserving, it could have gone to Beyonce, but the most deserving was Bad Bunny, like without a doubt.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think Beyonce put out an amazing album. I personally love Renaissance, and I'm not like a huge Beyonce fan as far as her music goes, but like I was definitely listening to Renaissance like more than I've ever listened to any one of her albums. But I think, Harry Styles is obviously a gigantic artist. I think he had a great year. He did a ton of sold out shows at Madison Square Garden, hits, all of the above, but he didn't have the sort of global impact that Bad Bunny's album did. You know what I mean? Like, Bad Bunny's album revolutionized the way that we look at Latin music. It broke through in a way that no other Latin artist has done before, and did numbers, and he has the highest grossing tour of any artist. You know what I mean? Like all of those different things. And I think it was a cultural blind spot, to sort of snub him in that way, when I don't think any artist broke through in the way that Bad Bunny did. Like, Harry Styles is already a household name. He has the backing of One Direction, Beyonce, same kind of thing. And Bad Bunny, seemingly out of nowhere for a lot of people, just became the biggest artist in the year on the back of this amazing piece of work. And to me, it's the same thing as when Macklemore won Best Hip Hop Album over Kendrick Lamar. It's the same kind of, cultural unawareness of the impact of the project that they're speaking of. Like, yeah, Macklemore had gigantic pop success, but if you are talking about, what something actually meant to that genre of music, and then more specifically what to music as a whole, when you talk about the album of the year, it's very obvious that they just went with the name that they were more familiar with Harry Styles, and didn't take note of the cultural impact and the musical shift that happened as a result of Bad Bunny putting out that album.
100%. I totally agree.
So, all right, the Grammys, the Grammys don't get it right most of the time. But I do, to their credit, letting Bad Bunny open the show. I mean, I shouldn't fucking say letting, because he deserved it more than probably anybody else that was out there. But I think it was amazing to have him open the show in that way. And that's still, I think, a win for our music and our culture as a whole.
It's the underdog story, for sure.
Yes, 110%. And I think it kicks the fucking door open for everyone else. Now, hard left turn out of the world of entertainment. Let's start shifting into Biden's State of the Union address. I'm not sure if you have seen some of the clips from it that were popping up, but you had a lot of back and forth with the crowd. Biden would be making a statement, and there were some boos from Republicans and people screaming at him. One of which was Marjorie Taylor Greene in her fur jacket that she decided to wear for the State of the Union address. Have you seen any of the clips and reactions to it, first and foremost?
So I haven't, but when it was happening, I didn't. But I was in the hospital today in the morning, and obviously the hospitals are just all playing CNN.
Right.
So I got a chance to see clips of what was happening, all the commotion, all the especially Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was just shouting back at everything and being a fucking child. And yeah, man, I mean, not a fan of Joe Biden.
Yeah.
But better than Trump.
Yep.
110%. I think that when I was watching it on CNN at the hospital, it was kind of he was just naming receipts of things that he was doing, and kind of bragging and all this stuff, and just shitting on Republicans, and there wasn't a lot of union in the State of the Union press. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, one thing that I was really happy that he did, of the only thing, was him bringing the parents of
Tyree Nichols. He brought the parents of Tyree Nichols up, right?
Right. He brought the parents. That was one thing I was really happy that he did. Obviously, when he was bringing awareness to police and use of firearms and all that stuff, and that was one thing that I was like, okay, cool. This is something I can get behind, and this is something that, with all due respect and with all to the family and everything, that should be something that should be continuing to be shown to the public, especially in government, where a lot of these people are just so for, well, quite frankly, just don't give a shit about, those things that have been happening for fucking forever now.
Sure.
So, but yeah, I mean, I got to see a little bit of the State of the Union address. He was very snarky. He was very just smiling through the whole thing. He handled it very well, as just a person, giving a speech. So yeah, but at the same time, it's just there was not necessarily, I didn't personally see any union or any any hopes of there being some progress within the country in general, especially between the two parties, Republican and Democrat. It was just constant, just this.
Yeah.
And we need less of that and more fucking unity. But America.
I mean, I definitely, I think I see it from both sides. I definitely agree, in an ideal world, we should be trying to find common ground to come together, because everybody just essentially shitting on one another and trying to purposely sabotage the other side when they're in power it is not going to help the regular person like you and I out, right? That doesn't move the needle. On the other side of it, though, I think that we needed to kind of see him talk that talk a bit, because you have these fucking people that are extremists, on the right, and it's not everybody, but they are a very powerful faction of the Republican Party that will propose one thing behind closed doors and then lie about it in front of the everyday person, and he brought up, one of those things, which was, he was talking about how some of the Republicans have proposed eliminating Social Security, right? And that's when they booed him when he brought that point up. But he was basically calling them out on their bullshit, and old Biden had some he still had some Jedi mind tricks left in the tank because he got them.
Right, though?
Yeah, well, he was right, but he got them to then publicly have to declare that they did not want to get rid of Social Security. And now, if you do see them push back against it, you have the receipts on television of them claiming that they were all for it. So he basically took away any leverage, any sort of leverage from negotiating that the Republicans would have, because they all stood up there and said, we are here for Social Security not being taken away, right? Because they wanted to save face. When you have videos, there was one congressman, I can't remember his name, talking about how he wanted to get rid of Social Security. And Biden was talking about how he had proposals from Republican Congress people who he didn't name out there publicly, but he had written proposals from them demanding that they wanted to get rid of Social Security if they were going to sign off on something else he wanted to pass. So he Jedi mind tricked them into publicly declaring they weren't getting rid of this, and now they're going to look like assholes if they go ahead and try and push these things out there. So he got them in a corner, which was very good, I think, at the end of the day. And a lot of people are saying he took a lot of their power away and handled it well. Talking about people that he did bring up as well, you had Brandon, I think his last name's pronounced Tsai, but he was the person who confronted and disarmed the Monterey Park shooter from his mass killing spree. And that was somebody that Biden brought up, and Biden's declaration of trying to get rid of these military style weapons, I thought was really important, a really important point to make. And then you had, that person from Colorado, Lauren Boebert, shaking her head no, because she's all about, guns in America and all this bullshit, right?
Right.
But I think overall, it was, for me personally, I think it was a good look for Biden. And yeah, I think I'd love to see more unity, but sadly, there are too many fucking crazy people on the right, I think, where you have to just call them out right now.
Exactly. And I was going to say at the same time, it's like, I remember seeing a clip with Alexandria Cortez, AOC, where she was literally calling motherfuckers out in Congress, to their face. And I was like, and I was like, there needs to be more of this shit, because Republicans will lie, but they will totally just say whatever they need to your face and just basically dismantle your who the person is as a person, as a politician and everything. So yeah, I totally agree with you 100% that Biden needed to basically call these people out and call out their hypocrisy, because majority of Republicans, whenever they speak or they try to push legislation, a lot of it comes from a very hypocritical point of view,
right?
A very far right point of view. So I think that kudos to Biden for doing that. And yeah, totally, we need unity, but people also need to be called out on their bullshit as many times as possible, especially on the far right and the left.
Yeah, 100%.
More the right.
right, 100%. And last thing I'll say is I mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene's outfit choice of a fur coat in the State of the Union, but I also found it ironic because it also speaks to if they like to crucify AOC for just about anything, right? And you mentioned her. If AOC wore a fur coat to the State of the Union address, they would have lost their fucking minds, and it just shows you the double standard.
Money on it. Yeah, you spend this money on it. Are you supposed to be a freaking a progressive green fucking PETA loving no. No.
Right. And then, you're supposed to look professional, all these different things, right? And it just goes to show you nobody's batting an eye at that. But again, if it was somebody like AOC, they'd be losing their fucking minds and talking about how unprofessional she was and not honoring, her title as a congressperson.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene, from what I hear, is the most unprofessional fucking person in that cabinet.
Yes.
Especially there. So it's dude, get over move on, get over it, man.
Yeah, well, speaking of, she was carrying around a white balloon all day throughout Congress as a means to troll Joe Biden over this whole Chinese spy balloon thing that has been happening. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, it's a sad day when Congress people are using the same sort of tactics that internet trolls and clout seekers on social media do to get likes and views. But that's the world we live in, sadly. Now, you have this Chinese spy balloon, which everybody had been talking about over the last week, and it was going over different parts of the U.S. It went on for a few days before the Biden administration eventually gave the okay to shoot it down. Now, of course, there are a lot of critiques coming, particularly from the right, as to Should it have been shot down earlier? And were the Chinese able to collect any intelligence in this? People asking what the U.S.'s response should have been. And of course, predictably, you had Republicans calling Biden's response delayed. And obviously, Democrats are coming to his defense. Now, the ironic thing about this is also that this happened under Trump in 2019, right. and he didn't shoot it down. And they actually they talk about that they were aware of Chinese spy balloons, well before this incident, and that actually 3 suspected Chinese surveillance balloons drifted over the continental U.S. during Trump's time in office. So again, Republicans making a story out of nothing and latching onto anything and being hypocrites once again.
Yeah, the hypocrisy for sure. And it's just like, also Trump was like literally shaking hands with communists and dictators left and right. Like
Putin's
they were
his boy.
Yeah, like his boys. And again, that just represents a big hypocrisy on the right side. And it's, but also it brings up like an interesting point, just as an American, where, how safe are we? If we're like, why was this Chinese spy balloon roaming the air for as long as it did, and for as many years as it was happening? So like my question is like, how safe are we? And what, like, obviously there's diplomatic measures that need to be taken into account when you have stuff like this. But I'm like, if you knew this, America had to know that this thing was coming into the United States already, like before it even entered the airspace. It has to. And if it doesn't, then that's an issue with our national security that needs to be fixed even more. Fuck the right, fuck the left. It's like we got these Chinese government communists who are also like controlling TikTok at the same time and like all this shit, which is irrelevant, but also, in my opinion, a big part of just manipulating culture in American society. And yeah, like this spy balloon is just like another, it's like more we're getting more Chinese influence in American culture in a negative way. And it's like in a matter of national security. So I just want to know if we're safe, like, are we being watched? Like, what is American government doing? What's the CIA doing? Like, why is this happening so frequently? And why is it taking so long for something like this for us to be like protected by our own government, where we just have to have like, instead of it being about protecting the American citizens, now it's just about, Trump did it, or Biden did it. Why did he take so long to shoot it down? Let me wear this fucking balloon so I can just show people, to like control motherfuckers. It's like, it's not about that, guys. It's y'all not giving a fuck about us as American citizens. So that's my take on it.
No, I completely agree. I think it's sad because everybody's just looking for ways to come up with like a political strategy to smear the other side. And with something like this, like, they don't give a fuck whether you're Democrat or Republican. If China was potentially looking to do something negative to the U.S., like, they don't give a fuck what your political affiliation is. They're going after us as a country. So we all should be concerned. And everybody in government, regardless of the side of the aisle that you fall on, should be trying to figure out how to make sense of this situation and make the best of it, and figure out how to avoid potentially putting the American citizens in danger, rather than taking the time to have one of your staffers go out and find a white balloon that you can parade around the Capitol. How about we start coming up with ideas and strategies on how to work together on figuring out if we are in fact safe? Because, you have China claiming that, this was unintentional and that the U.S. overreacted. And then they're also making sort of empty threats that they're going to respond in the same manner if something similar were to come across their airspace, right? So you already have kind of strained relations between both of our countries. I mean, people could be making something out of nothing, but there are a lot of people talking about the potential of a conflict between China and the United States in the coming years. So, yeah, I it's fucking scary to think that our elected officials don't really have their head in the game as to what is actually important, and are all just more interested in trolling the other side. And finding a way to talk about how the other side is fucking up, essentially.
And I don't believe it for one bit that the Chinese government did not know that shit was there. There is no way. You know how far China is away from us? It's like a 23-hour fucking flight to get to China. There is no way that balloon was floating for 23 fucking hours into the United States. And like, it was an accident. My bad. Fuck that, dude. Like, you motherfuckers were spying on us. Get out of the country.
Right. Well, 100%, man. It's a scary fucking thing, and sadly, the headline is
Makes
about
me like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 vibes, bro.
yeah,
Like when they're storming like the fucking, I mean, I
yeah,
guess it already happened, but they're storming like the White House and like all
right,
this shit, Russia invading. I'm like, bro, you just like stop making these games.
yeah. At 110%. It's
Mhm.
just more proof, bro, that like we are very much low on the priority list of what the politicians think is of importance. Sadly,
This is Modern Warfare 2.
yeah.
This is Call of Duty. We're on Call of Duty right now, guys.
Get ready. So, man, we've gone through some of the negative shit from this last week. I want to then move along to some of the more positive things that are happening from our community, people from our community being honored. So we'll talk about that in our Mi Gente segment. Mi Gente. All right, so I want to talk about somebody who's being honored. You have a queen of man, our culture, someone whose music is incredible and has spanned the generations, right? Somebody Celia, and the person I'm talking about is Celia Cruz, right? And she's of course the Cuban born singer and just a legend in our community. I know I grew up hearing her voice through my parents' car speakers. And she's being honored as the first Afro-Latina to appear on the U.S. quarter, which I think is an amazing thing. It's an amazing kind of moment. I mean, obviously, it doesn't end racism, with things like this, but
Put on the quarter,
right, right. But I think overall, when you talk about things like representation, and especially, let's even just specifically hold it into our community as a whole, right? The Latin community, because we do have an issue of colorism that historically has happened, to see someone like Celia Cruz, transcend onto something so iconic like the U.S. quarter, I think, has to be something amazing for anybody who identifies as Afro-Latino or Afro-Latina, right? To see themselves represented in such a way, I just think is an amazing thing.
Right. I think like in the grand diaspora of everything, of the African diaspora and the Latino diaspora, of the Afro-Latino diaspora, where, like you said, Black Latinos have been experiencing colorism and racism for many, many, many years, still do, especially in Latin America and South America. And it's something that still goes on. So, having an Afro-Latino on a quarter doesn't necessarily solve that. But again, I think we should take the wins as a win. And, it's progress. It's moving in the same direction. But also, Celia Cruz is just like an icon within the Afro-Latino community in general. So I think that I think people already knew this already. Like, I don't think she needed to be necessarily put on a quarter for that shit.
Sure.
But I think that like she's on my Fania All-Stars like towel up there. You can't see it.
Oh, but, I love that.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that that there, and we've spoken about this before too, where there just needs to be way more representation for Afro-Latinos. Like, even I go out of my way, even with like my own music, to mention like words like Morena, Afro-Latino, the diaspora, Yemaya, Yoruba, like all these different things in the diaspora that I feel like even in in an entertainment business, in just in general, are not mentioned enough. So I hope that this is like, even though it's a small step in the right direction, I hope that this kind of like sparks more notoriety with other Afro-Latinos, artists, actors, entertainers, philanthropists. There's so many that people don't even know about. And shine the light even more. Go ahead, America.
I think I was watching a documentary recently. I can't remember. I think it's the 1619 Project. It's like a documentary kind of series on Hulu. But they were talking about Motown and how a lot of the Black artists of the time, because their music was breaking through, it was sort of, and as sad as a fact of this is, a statement it is, to them, it was showing the world that they had value, right? And that's why they had such a sense of pride. And of course, as dark of a thought as that is, that, you have to contribute some sort of great musical talent in order to have value as a person of color. I think at the same time, this puts in the face of anybody who is racist, who is, someone who's fighting against change in this country. Things like this rub it in their face of just like how important our culture is and how our community is going to be heard, and they have there's nothing that they can do about it, and it's important because that begins to, I think, just strengthen us, to be able to stand up in the face of inherent racism and just the hate that happens in this country as a whole.
Can you imagine like a racist getting their change back at like a fucking subway, and they're like, nah, it just throws it away. I'm like, right. You kidding me? You're like, you're broke and you're just okay, bro. It's like get your fucking standards together.
Yeah.
So I would love to see that. I'll just take the quarter, but I would love to honestly see that shit, because it's just like it's the double standard. It's just the fucking you're that racist and you're that fucking hateful towards a person on a quarter that you're just gonna throw it away, and it just doesn't make it.
I love the visual. I love the visual of like somebody who's an inherent racist, but like has to look at their change as they're paying for something and see a black woman on their quarter,
So stupid.
and also someone else from our community that I wanted to talk about was the actor Pedro Pascal, who hosted SNL. He's the dude from Narcos. He has that new show on HBO, which I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head right now.
Last of Us.
Yeah, Last of Us, which I started to watch. I haven't been able to get super deep into it, but I know it's like the new thing everybody's losing their shit about on the internet. You're included in that?
Well, I'm obsessed with the show, but I was obsessed like years ago when the game came out in 2019. And I'm literally obsessed with the game. Neil Druckmann, he's a video game director, the actors that were playing everything, but also a huge fucking fan of Pedro Pascal. Yeah. I've been following him since Narcos, really. But Mandalorian, like he's just like, I love Pedro Pascal so fucking much. He's
so dope because he also like used his monologue time. He didn't just make jokes, but then also talked about where he came from, and it was beautiful to see again when you talk about that topic of representation, and also I think people recognizing that these moments are bigger than just them, right? That they have people at home watching who are depending on them to be a voice for them, right? And he did exactly that. He talks about being born in Chile, talks about how he has 34 first cousins, and talked about, how his parents, immigrated here with him from Chile. And he, describes how they brought him and his sister here to the US and then also honors them, talking about how they were so brave and without them he wouldn't be here. And he's talking about how he certainly wouldn't be standing here with everyone watching tonight. And I just thought it was amazing, for him to use that platform and to say like, I need to make sure that somewhere in here I honor where I came from and the journey that my family went on to bring me here, to put me in this position. I just think it was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, man, that's like the beautiful, heroic immigrant journey is like coming from another country and as a Latino, most likely knowing no fucking English and just like trying to adapt to this country as it is, and fucking making it. And God bless, Latino parents who want that for their kids as well. Like I know my mom, even though like Puerto Rico is not necessarily an immigrant country, I still consider it an immigrant country because it was still colonized and still is colonized.
Right.
And her coming to the United States, coming to New York, coming to the Bronx with her 2 kids and fucking not knowing any English, getting an education, getting her master's degree and making sure her kids are doing the right thing. That is the immigrant journey. That is the beautiful thing about us as Latinos and as Hispanics is that we fucking work hard. We work really, really hard and we grind to make sure that we have a better future for ourselves. So Pedro Pascal is just another stepping stone of that journey. Yeah. And I love him for it. I love that he used it. My favorite thing of that SNL, it was an SNL sketch that he did where he was playing a Chilean mother. I think it was pretty much playing his mom or some shit like that. But the beautiful thing about that sketch was that they didn't translate it in Spanish. it was like they let him speak Spanish, and if you didn't fucking understand it, that's what it is. Because if you're going into a house and you speak to your you know, I think it was like she was playing a Chilean mother, and it was the Chilean mother's son, and then he brought like a white girl to the house and shit like that. It's like that is the experience. It's like you go there, she's not gonna speak to you in Spanish. She's gonna like talk to, like my mom. Whenever if I bring a girlfriend who doesn't know any Spanish, she's gonna talk to me in Spanish and be like, "¿Qué tal, nena? ¿Qué está haciendo aquí?" Blah blah blah. All this, whatever. And be like, "Oh, okay, nice. Oh, me trae todo. How nice to meet you." Like da da da.
Right.
And that sketch in particular that I saw, it was just like, it was like a chef's kiss. It was like, yo, you're bringing me back, and that was the beautiful representation of Latino culture. So more props to him, and I hope he does more shit. Last of Us is coming out this Friday, so I can't wait. I'm excited.
I gotta catch up on the episodes that already dropped. But yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. And I think honorable mention, Bad Bunny's speech at the Grammys, you know, him speaking primarily in Spanish, I think just continues to go along with everything that he stands for, where it's essentially like, listen, I'm not going to change who I am for you. You're going to have to come meet me where I am. And I just think that's such a beautiful notion, especially when historically we've been told we have to kind of like assimilate if we want to have any sort of hindrance of success, you know? Right. So all really beautiful things, man. And I think, you know, let's now get into all that you have going on, because I feel like you're always creating, you're always doing something new, always putting out new records. I mean, so what's kind of the latest in the world of Larito?
So I have, it's a bunch of stuff happening, really exciting stuff. It's a lot of hard work, but I'm really excited about this year. I'm basically putting out music every single month, a single month. This Friday, I have a record called Morena coming out on Friday, February 10th, as well as an acoustic performance that I do on YouTube, where I basically take those overly produced projects that I do and singles, and I reinvent them into a different Latin style of music. So, for example, the last record that I did was Caro, and that was kind of like a fusion of like bossa nova and reggaeton. And I turned it around and I remade it into just a straight up traditional Latin jazz record. So for Morena, and this is probably because I was in Mexico, and I was just so like infused with the culture, and also I got to produce a cumbia band out there. So Morena is kind of like a salsa trap fusion, and then or like a rumba trap fusion. And then and I just did it a couple days ago, where I redid the song, but as a traditional cumbia record. So that'll be on YouTube, and that'll be out this weekend. And yeah, a lot more stuff. Releasing my first album, first LP called Las Que No Me Importan. It comes out in March.
Nice.
It comes out in April. And yeah, I'm just releasing singles every month, man, for the whole year, and putting out all this extra content. YouTube live streaming at 8:30 p.m. every Wednesdays that I'm doing to kind of just show people more about like my process with production and songwriting. Doing vlogs as well to give people a different side of me, kind of just like documenting my life, what I do on a daily. And yeah, man, I'm just enjoying the ride. I'm enjoying like doing all this creative stuff, and I'm blessed that I actually get to do it for a living, and it's all I get to do for a living. So I'm really happy about it.
Man, I'm so happy for you, bro. I'm really proud of you. That's a beautiful thing, because you've been doing your thing for a minute. And I like a side note, because I was watching John Bellion in the studio. I'm not sure if you're super familiar with his music. Amazing, right? But like he has this he talked about how like for him, he wants to know if it's a great song by stripping away all the elements, and if he can just play it on piano and it still feels like something, then he knows it's special. So I think that's kind of what you're kind of talking about as well, is that you can strip it down or change it into another genre or whatever it is, and it still works, it still sounds great. That's like the sign of a beautiful piece of art as far as music goes.
Definitely highly influenced by Jem Bellion, because I think when I first saw his YouTube thing years ago, when he was doing Guillotine, and that was just like, it blew my fucking mind. And then after that, doing like all these songs, but then kind of just like you said, kind of stripping down the production value and just adding just vocals or maybe strings or just guitar and his voice. It's like it's a different feeling you get versus like pressing buttons and like, you know, tapping stuff and playing MIDI and keyboards and all that stuff. it's a different thing when you feel the vibrations of an instrument or you feel the vibrations of a voice. It just touches you in a different way. So definitely inspired by John Bellion in that aspect when it comes to reimagining music and your own music too, kind of challenging yourself at the same time.
Yeah, so, no, absolutely. And I'm not even trying to turn this into like a John Bellion stan, podcast, but like, even if you're not into like his, I am too, but even if you're not into his music, bro, when you watch him in the studio, it's just so obvious you're watching someone in their element and doing the one thing on this earth that they love more than anything. And it's so fucking inspiring to see. He just like, he's creating the music, but he's so damn excited as if he's just like a fan listening to it as well, right? Like every time, it could be somebody just laying down a bass line, he's losing his fucking mind. And for me, I was rewatching because I've watched like every one of those YouTube videos of him in the studio, guillotine and all that stuff. And for me, it was even just like inspiring to remind myself to like get lost in the creation of whatever I'm doing because it's something that I truly love and not think too much out of it. Just get excited, like a kid again because you're doing something that you really enjoy doing.
That's it. And I think a big part of me reimagining these songs is kind of like, because I've made these songs, like last year, like I made all the songs I'm going to be releasing last year for this year. And I think it's a beautiful thing where you kind of want to go back to the songs and not even like to redo the songs, but kind of just reimagine it in a way that maybe I could have done this differently, or maybe I could have done this differently. And it excites you again.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, if you can get excited over again after being excited already after making the song, then it's like, that's what it's about. You're just constantly trying to like influence and give yourself that passion to keep reinventing yourself and keep reimagining how your music can be played and how it can be shown to the world. So
yeah, no, 100%. Anybody listening that just randomly, like if you don't have anything in your life that makes you feel that excited, like a little kid again, and you're getting lost in it, like keep looking, because that is the greatest feeling in the world. Just like that ultimate presence when you get lost for hours and nothing else fucking matters. Like that's magic right there.
Beautiful thing, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, my bro. Well, it's always good catching up with you. Where can people follow you on social media and all that good stuff?
Thank you for having me, brother. I appreciate you. You guys can find me. Everything is at Lawdito, LAWDITO. That's YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, my website, lawditomusic.com. It's all Lawdito. Check me out.
Love it, bro. And I don't know if your vlog, I've seen some of your vlogs, but I would love to see just the breakdown of you making records as well. So I think that I would love to challenge you to make sure you put that.
Oh yeah. I'll definitely like the next vlog that I'm releasing is going to be the last vlog that I did was me creating traditional like rumba flamenco music.
Love it.
And then working with like seasoned like guitarists and stuff like that. So I'm doing a lot more traditional like instrumental based music. So yeah, they'll be on the vlogs. I'm in the studio on Friday. I was in the studio on Sunday. I'm recording everything, man. It'll all be on YouTube.
Love it, my bro. I'm definitely gonna check it out. Always good catching up with you, man. And we'll talk soon, of course.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you,
man. Big shout out to my guest this week, Larito, my guy. Always love catching up with him. He's doing a lot of amazing things. So make sure you go check him out. Go give him a follow. And now, with that said, we usually be doing Ask a Gringo here. We do the Ask a Gringo segment, but Instagram was kind of tweaking yesterday. I don't know what is going on with my Instagram. I post a story and then it's like showing up that I didn't post anything, and then I log back in and it shows like it posted, and the same cycle keeps on going. And it seems like a lot of people are not seeing the story because it only got like, I don't know, 20 views or something like that. So I think it was the same kind of problem people were having where you won't see my stories for whatever reason. I don't know what's going on with Instagram right now. So that was a fail when it came to my question for this week. So no Ask a Gringo segment thanks to Instagram. And also further proof that you have to build your own platforms, because as a creator, when one of these platforms goes down or they decide to kick you off, they decide to, close up shop, there goes, everything that you've built along with it. We are not in control of Instagram or any of these other platforms. So we need to make sure that we are creating something outside of that to connect with the people that we're trying to reach. Which actually brings me to one last thing. I'm building a mastermind, like a virtual meetup. I'm keeping it very small. We're doing the first one today. But if you are interested in possibly being a part of it, just shoot me a DM on Instagram at DJ Dramos, and I'll try to send you an invite to be a part of that. It's all about, some growth work, connecting with people, building that community that I'm always talking about. So hit me up if you want to be a part of it. Now, with that said, let's just tie everything we talked about today in a neat little bow in a segment we call Conclusion Stew.
Time for Conclusion Stew.
All right, so I'm going to go through these, kind of quickly here. I've heard a lot of arguments when it comes to the Grammys as far as, who should have won these things and all. I don't know. To me, I guess there needs to be more transparency as to what the fucking criteria is for people winning. There was that woman who won Song of the Year who seemed like a very sweet woman, but the majority of people had not heard of that fucking song. So how could it be Song of the Year? I still think Bad Bunny got snubbed for Album of the Year just because, he's somebody who exists essentially outside of the system, and to have the impact that he did shows you how special that album was and how special he is as an artist. But that's my 2 cents. Then on a more serious note, you have Biden's State of the Union address. And, I would love to exist in a world where we all can come together for the greater good of people. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we are there quite yet. And I think it was necessary for Biden to kind of have a stronger tone in calling people out on their bullshit, because what we're seeing a lot from those on the right is, behind closed doors, they're doing all kinds of fuckery to appease their billion-dollar donors, their large corporations who donate to them. And in front of the camera, they're blaming anything and everything on someone else, right? And claiming, foul play and that they're being lied upon and all these different things. And, Biden also went on a speech after that the next day and yesterday, and was talking about, calling, and was actually calling people out by name and pulling up receipts, which I think is just important. We have to, put people on blast and show the country that, these politicians are playing a really dangerous game, and they're saying one thing in front of the camera and doing something else behind closed doors. And I think it's important to call them out. Now, unfortunately, the people that need to see this evidence, those who vote Republican, probably won't, because it's not going to make it to Fox News. They're not going to air the hypocritical clips that Biden was referencing. They're not going to show the receipts that he has. And that's part of the problem that we exist in today with this country and the media. But, little by little, that's all you can hope and try and do the right thing and call people out on their bullshit. Now, this Chinese spy balloon, it's scary. I can't even lie to you, and I don't know what the right answer is here. I don't, I don't like how it's being made this political thing of, oh, it's a knock on Biden for being weak, and then now the Democrats have to pull receipts on, this sort of thing happening during Trump's administration and this, that, and there. And it's just, all of it gets us away from what is actually important and what should actually be the concern, and that is the safety of the American people. And it doesn't seem like we are at the forefront of anyone's mind when it comes to these things. It's all about finger pointing first and then actually worrying about the problem second, which is really scary. And then on a positive side of things, man, salute to the legend that is Celia Cruz, spinning on a U.S. quarter, the first Afro-Latina to be on a U.S. quarter, which is absolutely amazing. Man, just beautiful, beautiful representation. And I can't help but laugh at the visual of like a racist having to use a quarter with a black woman on it. I just think that's absolutely amazing. So love that visual, and big shout out to the legend that is Celia Cruz. And then Predro Pascal, I love anybody using their platform for good and understanding the power that it has, the power that they hold in their hands, and taking into consideration their community and making the most of the moments that they're given, and understanding that as marginalized people, we speak for more than just ourselves. We are representing an entire community of people. Whether we like it or not, that is just the burden that falls upon our shoulders. And I love to see people step into that and embrace it and share their stories and humanize those who have come from a similar background or are going through similar hardships. I just think really amazing. So salute to him for doing that work and making sure that he shared his parents' legacy of coming over here and struggling and being able to help give him the life that he has now. I just think it was a beautiful, beautiful story to tell, especially on a gigantic platform like SNL. So salute to Pedro Pascal for sure. And that's it, man. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Remember, my book, Just Be, pre-orders are available everywhere right now. Thank you so much to everybody who has been supporting thus far. JustB.nyc is the website. Link is in my bio at DJ Dramos on Instagram. I am trying to build this up, man. We are trying to do everything as independently as possible, trying to build, again, like I say, this ship that I can take, all of us on and build this community up. And this is just another extension of that. And so many other things to come, but this is the building blocks right here. And this is creating the foundation. And I'd love for you to be a part of it, to join this beautiful tribe that I'm trying to build. And that's it, man. Have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. I will catch y'all on Tuesday with a brand new episode. And if you're missing my voice, remember the Street Stoke podcast. My second podcast airs Monday through Friday. Anywhere you find podcasts, it's some daily inspiration combining hip-hop and ancient philosophy to get your day started. So you can go check that out. And I'll catch y'all on Tuesday. Have a beautiful weekend. Until then, stay safe. Peace.